We have all had this fantasy. It's 3 a.m., you are staring at your student loan balance, or your credit card bill, or your mortgage, and you think, why doesn't someone just hack the bank and delete it? We grew up watching Mr. Robot and Fight Club. We saw the end of the movie where the buildings crumble and the debt records are erased, resetting society to zero. We see hackers stealing billions of dollars in crypto, breaching the Pentagon, and leaking the personal emails of world leaders. If they can do all that, surely they can log into Chase or Bank of America and just change a number. Change a 1 to a 0. It seems like the ultimate Robin Hood crime, a victimless crime where the only loser is a faceless corporation. But in the real world, this never happens. Hackers steal money from banks, but they never delete debt for people. Why? Is it morality? Is it lack of skill? Or is there something fundamentally different about how debt is stored compared to how money is stored? The answer is a journey into the deepest, darkest, and most ancient layers of the financial system. It is a story about COBOL mainframes from the 1970s, database transaction logs, and the immutable law of double-entry bookkeeping. Today, we are going to deconstruct the banking infrastructure to explain why Project Mayhem is technically impossible and why your debt is actually more secure than your money. Before we dive into the mainframe architecture that enslaves your financial future, if you enjoy deep technical analysis of how the world actually works beyond the Hollywood myths make, sure you hit that subscribe button. We decode the systems that control your life so you can understand the game you are playing. To understand why you can't just delete debt, you have to understand that money in a bank isn't a physical object. It's not a gold coin in a vault. It is an entry in a database. But it is not just any database. It is not a simple Excel spreadsheet where you can just backspace a cell. Banks use what is called a ledger based on double-entry bookkeeping. This concept was invented by Italian merchants in the 15th century, and it is the bedrock of modern capitalism. The rule is simple. Every transaction has two sides, a debit and a credit. Assets equals liabilities plus equity. If you have a loan of $50,000, that debt is a liability for you, but it is an asset for the bank. It sits on their books as a value that they own. If a hacker were to log into the database and simply delete your debt record, make it zero, the equation would become unbalanced. The bank's assets would drop by $50,000 without a corresponding transaction explaining where that value went. This creates an immediate anomaly. Modern banking systems run reconciliation processes constantly. These are automated scripts that run every night, batch processing. They sum up all the assets and all the liabilities. If the sum is off by even 1 cent, alarms go off. A human auditor is alerted. They would look at the discrepancy and see, yesterday, the total loan assets were $10 billion. Today, they are $9,999,950,000. Where did the $50,000 go? They would trace the transaction logs and see that there was no payment, no write-off, just a record modification. They would simply restore the backup from the previous tape, and your debt would be back the next morning. To successfully delete debt, you wouldn't just have to hack one database table. You would have to hack the entire history of the universe. This brings us to the transaction log. In database engineering, specifically ACID-compliant databases like Oracle, DB2, or IBM DB2 on mainframes, you never just overwrite data. You append a new state. When you pay $100 off your debt, the database does unjust erase $50,000. Now, let's talk about the hardware. The Iron Mountain. Most people think banks run on the cloud, on AWS or Azure. The front end, the app on your phone, probably do. But the core banking system, the engine that holds the actual ledger, runs on mainframes. IBM Z-Series machines. These are not normal computers. They are beasts designed for one thing: extreme reliability and security. They run on operating systems like z/OS, and the code is often written in COBOL. This is legacy code. It is ancient. It is ugly. And ironically, its age makes it incredibly secure against modern hackers. Why? Because modern hackers are script kiddies who learn to hack using Kali Linux, Python, and meta. They know how to exploit web vulnerabilities like SQL injection or cross-site scripting. They know how to crack Windows passwords. They do not know how to navigate a green screen ISPF terminal. They do not know EBSDIC encoding, which is different from OSC. They do not know JCL job control language. The skills required to hack a mainframe are possessed by a dying breed of engineers who are mostly 60 years old and working for the banks. It is security by OBS. To hack the core ledger, you would need to infiltrate the bank physically. Find a terminal connected to the internal mainframe network, which is air-gapped from the internet. Have the credentials of and know how to issue commands in a language that has been taught in universities for 30 years. And even if you did all that, there are the backups. Banks are paranoid hoarders of data. They have cold storage. Every night, the state of the ledger is copied onto magnetic tapes. Yes, physical tapes. These tapes are put into trucks and driven to secure bunkers deep underground or in mountains. Literally, Iron Mountain. These are offline backups. You cannot hack a tape sitting on a shelf in a cave. If a hacker managed to wipe the live servers, the disaster recovery team would just drive to the mountain, grab the tape from yesterday, and restore the system. The bank would be down for a day. You might not be able to buy coffee for 24 hours. But when the system came back up, your debt would be there, smiling at you. This leads us to a disturbing realization. Digital debt is the most resilient object in the universe. It is more durable than stone. If you blow up the bank's headquarters, the debt survives in the backup data center. If you destroy the data center, it survives in the tape vault. If you destroy the tape vault, it survives in the distributed ledger of the credit bureaus Equifax, Experian, Transunia. These bureaus have a copy of your debt status. Banks report to them monthly. So even if you successfully nuked Chase Bank off the face of the earth, Equifax still says you owe the money. And when the FDIC or another bank buys the assets of the destroyed bank, they will use the credit bureau data to reconstruct the loan book and come after you. The only way to truly delete debt is legal, not technical. It's called bankruptcy, or paying it off, or in a societal collapse scenario, hyperinflation, where the debt becomes worthless, but so does your money. The Mr. Robot scenario assumes a centralized point of failure that simply doesn't exist in the redundant, distributed, and audited world of high finance. However, there is a nuance here. Hackers do steal money. They steal from the float. They attack the transfer mechanisms. The famous Bangladesh bank heist, where hackers stole $81 million, targeted the SWIFT network. They tricked the Federal Reserve of New York into sending money to accounts in the Philippines. They didn't edit the balance. They issued a valid instruction to move funds. They exploited the authentication process, not the database integrity. This is theft, not erasure. Theft is possible because money is fungible and moves. Debt is static and tied to an identity. It is much harder to make a liability disappear than to make an asset move. But what about the future? Could quantum computers break this? Maybe. A quantum computer could theoretically crack the encryption that protects the communication channels. It could decrypt the SSL/TLS that protects your password, but it wouldn't magically allow you to violate the logic of double-entry bookkeeping. Even with infinite computing power, you still have the problem of the audit trail. Unless the quantum computer can also brainwash the auditors and rewrite the physical tapes in the mountain, the anomaly will be detected. There is, however, a terrifying flip side to this resilience. If debt cannot be deleted, it can also be weaponized. We are moving towards programmable money and central bank digital currencies. In a CBDC world, the ledger is centralized at the Federal Reserve. The resilience that protects the bank's assets today could be used to enforce control tomorrow. If the ledger says you owe a fine, the system could automatically deduct it. You cannot hide cash under your mattress if cash is digital. The immutability of the ledger becomes a prison. This technical reality check serves as a lesson in system architecture. The banking system is designed with distrust as a core feature. It assumes everyone, hackers, employees, customers, trying to defraud it. Therefore, it verifies everything against everything else. It is a mesh of checks and balances. If you are a developer or an aspiring security professional, study the banking system not to hack it, but to learn from it. Learn about event sourcing, the pattern of storing transactions instead of state. Learn about immutability. Learn about idempotency. These are the concepts that make systems robust. The reason crypto exchanges get hacked so often is that they often use sloppy Web 2 architectures to manage Web 3 assets. They don't have the 50 years of paranoia that traditional banks have built into their COBOL spaghetti code. Ultimately, the fantasy of the hacker erasing debt is just that, a fantasy. It is a power fantasy born from our feeling of powerlessness against the financial machine. But the machine is built to survive. It is built to remember. And it never, ever forgets what you owe. Speaking of powerful machines, running complex simulations or learning to code these robust systems requires hardware that can keep up. If you are still running on a laptop that struggles to open Chrome tabs, you are fighting with one hand tied behind your back. I've curated a list of high-performance gear from mechanical keyboards that make coding a joy to processors that can handle heavy virtualization that I personally recommend. Check out the link in the description to upgrade your battle station. You don't need a mainframe to be a power user, but you do need the right tools for the job.